When you think about taxes, you probably think of that one painful day in April, and that's it. But here's the question for this episode. How many times does the same dollar get taxed before you're done with it? You earn a paycheck, that's taxed. You spend it, it's taxed again. You buy a house, perpetually taxed. You invest what's left, your profits are taxed. You pass that down, and you're taxed once more. It's like the money never stops being sliced every time it moves. So ask yourself, is this about funding society, or is it about paying rent to a system that owns every dollar you touch? Welcome back to Thinking and Being. If you like what you see today, please be sure to like and subscribe, as this will enable you to see more content from myself and others just like this. And I plan to be on YouTube for quite a while, so your help here is much appreciated.
Oh, January 1st. Better get going on those taxes, Nettie.
So why this particular topic? This has been on my mind because I see it every day. Friends talk about struggling to afford houses and then realizing property tax is basically a lifelong bill. Miss a few payments and then the house you own isn't really yours. My own kids are learning about capitals and equations in school, but not about how money actually works, how taxes really shape their future. And when I think about America's founding, literally a revolt against our unfair taxation, it makes me wonder, if our country was born out of resistance to taxes, how did we end up here, with the same dollar getting taxed 3 or 4 times and our national debt still skyrocketing?
Daddy, what do taxes pay for?
Oh, why, everything. Policemen, trees, sunshine, and let's not forget the folks who just don't feel like working, God bless them.
The first main idea I want to talk about is the current state of taxation, or as I call it, same money, multiple taxes. First, the illusion of a simple tax. When most of us think about taxes, we picture one line on our paycheck. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface, there's an entire ecosystem of taxes. Income, sales, property, capital gains, inheritance, and much more, each waiting to take a bite from the same money. And here's the strange part. The more that dollar moves, the more times it gets taxed. It's not just pay your fair share once, it's pay again and again and again every step of the way. So ask yourself, if the system keeps reaching into your wallet no matter what you do, is it designed for fairness or for perpetual extraction? And we need to talk about what taxes were supposed to be. Let's rewind to the founding of America. This country was born out of anger at unfair taxes. Remember, no taxation without representation? Early on, most government revenue came from tariffs and excise taxes. Income tax didn't even exist until 1913. And then it was just 1%, and only for the wealthiest households. Taxes were supposed to fund shared essentials, things like roads and national security or defense, and public goods. Compare that to today, where your money gets taxed multiple times and the national debt still explodes. Somewhere along the way, the intent of taxes drifted far from where we started.
I know a way out.
Who are you?
I'm the last registered Democrat. Tax and spend! Tax and spend!
And the debt keeps climbing. Here's the kicker. Even with all these taxes, the U.S. national debt is over $34 trillion in 2025 and climbing. No new administration has had any incentive or any intent to slow this down. We're taxed at every turn, yet the system still runs a deficit year after year. So the question becomes, if we're paying more, why does the hole just keep getting deeper? Is this a problem of not enough revenue, or is it a system that consumes resources faster than it can ever balance? So let's go through a few examples. First, we have Alex. He earns $60,000 a year. Before he even sees it, the government takes about 20% in income tax. He saves up to $5,000 after tax for a car. At the dealership, he hands over his hard-earned money and then gets hit with another huge chunk in sales tax. So that same dollar was taxed when he earned it, and then again when he spent it. Multiply that across groceries, gas, streaming subscriptions, and you start to wonder, why are we paying twice just for the right to use the money we already earned? Next, there's Denise. She inherits her mom's house, worth about $400,000. Her mom already bought it with after-tax dollars, and she paid property tax every year on time for 30 years. But when Denise inherits it, the government may demand an estate tax. Another bite out of the very same asset. And then once she owns it, Denise owes property tax every single year, just like her mom did. Think about that. If you can lose your home by missing a tax payment, did you ever really own it? Or are you just paying rent to the state or to the government forever? Then there's Marcus. He invests $10,000 from his paycheck, money that was already taxed once. Over the years, it grows to $30,000. That's great, right? But when he sells, he owes capital gains tax on that profit. If he leaves it to his kids, estate taxes may kick in too. That same $10,000 was taxed as income, and then again when it grew, and maybe again when it's passed on. So here's the uncomfortable question. At what point does money actually become yours? Or is ownership itself a total illusion in this system? You might be thinking, come on, these are just cherry-picked scenarios. Most people don't really get taxed that many times. But these scenarios are pretty common. Here's the truth. These aren't rare loopholes. They're pretty normal. Most of us don't realize how many layers are built in because we've been conditioned to accept them.
Oh, no, I felt that. You didn't carry the one, you foolish person. Now you'll incur the penalties for the compound interest and the wrath and the truncheons. Boy.
We don't stop and ask why we pay income tax, then sales tax, then property tax, then capital gains tax, and maybe estate tax on the same pool of money. And fear plays a big role here. When we grew up, we heard things like, don't mess with the IRS, as if questioning the system itself is dangerous.
Taxi!
Ooh, look, Homer, the IRS.
So instead of asking, does this design even make sense, most people just keep their head down and pay, even as the same dollar gets recycled and taxed again. Next, let's talk about why the system feels broken, diving into the system's intent versus today's reality. First, let's talk about going from freedom to complexity. America began with a tax rebellion. The Boston Tea Party wasn't about tea, it was about a principle. Don't take our money without giving us a voice. Early U.S. revenue came mainly from tariffs and excise taxes, small and simple. Today, the tax code runs over 70,000 pages. What started as a straightforward contract, pay for shared goods, has morphed into quite the labyrinth. And when the system gets too complex, most people stop asking why and just try to survive inside it. Every transaction triggers a new subtraction. That creates a reinforcing loop. The more you move money, the more it shrinks. Less wealth accumulates, which drives more work hours just to keep pace, which means more taxable events. The cycle isn't accidental, it's structural. And then there's chasing revenue and missing the point. Here's the paradox. Taxes keep rising, but the core purpose, funding shared prosperity, doesn't seem to materialize. Public infrastructure crumbles, schools struggle, healthcare costs explode. The system takes more slices of each dollar, but the pie never looks bigger. The question for you is this about raising revenue, or is it about sustaining a machine that feeds on itself? And what is discretionary anyway? Not all taxes are created equal. Mandatory spending, things like Social Security and Medicare, is on autopilot. Discretionary spending is the part Congress debates on each year. Education, infrastructure, research, public health, defense. But here's the catch. As interest payments on debt grow, the discretionary slice shrinks. That means the dollars you pay in April don't always go where you think they do. So the loop becomes higher taxes, smaller share for services you actually feel, more frustration, and less trust. And then there's the complexity industry. Here's another hidden layer. The sheer complexity of the tax code has created an entire industry of compliance. Accountants, lawyers, software platforms, billions are spent just helping people navigate the maze. It's almost as if the system is designed to be confusing, because confusion generates more revenue and more dependence. So question for you is, if it takes a professional translator to explain your own paycheck, who really controls your money? You or the system that writes the rules? And then trust is on the decline. At the core, taxes are supposed to be a social contract. We pool resources to build roads, schools, and services no one can provide alone. But when people see multiple taxes, rising debt, and a system that feels rigged, trust erodes. Systems thinking shows a reinforcing loop. Low trust, more avoidance and loopholes, more enforcement and complexity, and then even lower trust. The intent of taxes was unity. The reality feels more like extraction. And when trust collapses, so does willingness to build together. And if you want to join me on YouTube and complain about taxes and potentially reinvent the tax system, I recommend checking out Kevin Colby. One of the things I do in my videos is promote other YouTube content creators, and I do this because they have incredibly engaging and educational content. They've inspired me to be on YouTube. It's great karma, and honestly, they deserve some credit. Kevin is not a tax expert, but he will help you like he's helped me if you want to get going on YouTube. Kevin's content is very relaxed and instructional and meant for beginners, not professionals trying to max out on profit or YouTubers trying to sell a bunch of courses. I'll leave a link to his channel as well as his recent video about what he learned after getting to 10,000 subscribers, which is a great milestone. That's a great video, and congrats to Kevin. All right, back to this video.
Sir, why did you wait until the last minute to pay your taxes?
Taxes? Isn't this the line from Metallica?
Sir, why did you wait until the last minute to pay your taxes?
Because I'm an idiot. Happy?
Third main idea I want to discuss is rethinking the tax system and look at some fresh paths forward. First, we can discuss the idea of proof of passage, also known as what should be taxed. Think of two phases for every dollar: building and using. When you earn or invest, you're building capacity. When you consume or spend on non-investment goods and services, you're using capacity. A proof of passage model would tax dollars primarily at the point of consumption, when money leaves your personal or family balance sheet for use, not each time it moves or grows inside your balance sheet. The long-run effects: taxing consumption more than saving or creating encourages investment, productivity, and future wages. The downsides: risk of inequality if the wealthy can defer consumption forever. But the fix could be pairing a progressive consumption tax or lifetime cash flow tax with a universal demigrant or baseline credit so everyone benefits while creation isn't punished. So comment below, should we tax using more than building? Another idea could be transparent money maps and see where every dollar goes. People feel vampired because they can't see the loop. Imagine a digital tax receipt for every payment. This year, your dollars funded 28% local schools, 22% roads, 15% public health, with potentially live dashboards per city, county, or state. Visibility changes behavior. Clarity creates trust, and that improves compliance. You could even opt into alerts when a project you funded completes. If you saw your tax dollars pour a real sidewalk your kid rides his bike on, would tax day feel more like investment and less like tribute? And then here's the idea of tax what hurts, free what helps. Retune incentives with a simple rule: free creation, price extraction. Lower or waive taxes on work, saving, entrepreneurship, childcare, education, basic groceries, and medicine. Raise or shift taxes towards system drains, things like heavy pollution, monopolistic rent seeking, purely speculative churn. That's classic systems thinking. Target the bottlenecks and externalities that degrade the commons, not the activities that expand it. So which activity do you think should be tax-free because it clearly grows the pie? Comment below and let us know what you think. And then there's pushing funding downward and how a local first approach might actually work. Today, federal income tax is the foggiest of all the pots of money. Locals are where you feel outcomes. A local first rebalance could earmark a fixed share, say 25 to 30% of federal income tax, to automatically stay within your city, state, or county. Using federal matching for outcomes rather than micromanaged grants. You could publish stacked receipts, local, state, and federal, so you see proportional flows. You could apply a subsidiary test. Services delivered closest to citizens unless there's a clear national case. The net effect: fewer dollars lost to administrative friction, more visible wins where you live without abolishing federal roles.
You look at those morons. I paid my taxes over a year ago.
Dad,
What is it, sweetie? Did you see a scary picture in your picture book?
that was last year's taxes. You have to pay again this year.
No, because you see, I went ahead and year-wise, I was counting forward from the last previous. So!
And then there's the idea of incentivizing creation, not just compliance. So much of the code rewards fitting the mold, W-2 plus mortgage, instead of solving problems. Flip that loop. Bigger, simpler credits for new businesses, patents, research and development, apprenticeships, neighborhood co-ops, and care work that lifts labor force participation. Treat open knowledge, published research, open source contributions, community projects as civic creation with tax recognition. If the world is built from thought, our code should reward builders, not box checkers. And then from extraction loops to renewal loops. Distortions are when taxes push you into choices that don't match real value. Things like debt being favored over equity, buying a house you can't afford for the deduction, holding assets just to dodge capital gains timing. A renewal loop would minimize these. Fewer, clearer taxes, neutral treatment across similar activities, work versus self-employment, rent versus own, debt versus equity, which leads to people choosing based on value, not loopholes, which leads to resources flowing to productive uses, which leads to higher growth in wages, and that in turn leads to broader base and lower rates. The payoff is a system that nudges truth, not paperwork gymnastics.
Marge, how many kids do we have? Oh, no time to count. I'll just estimate. 9.
Homer, you know we don't have...
Shut up. If I don't hear you, it's not illegal. Okay, I need some deductions. Oh, business gifts! Here you go. Keep using nuclear power.
Homer, I painted that for you.
Okay, Marge, if anyone asks, you require 24-hour nursing care, Lisa's a clergyman, Maggie has 7 people, and Bart was wounded in Vietnam.
Cool.
Next, pre-filled returns. The government already has your W-2 and all your income data. Why are you the one retyping it into a form? They could just send you a form and then you validate, confirm it, or correct it. And then raise the basic deduction. Everyone should get to keep more of their first chunk of income without having to dig through loopholes. Also, simple national sales tax instead of hidden layers. Replace dozens of small, confusing taxes with one clear consumption tax that's easy to track. Pair that with a receipt that shows exactly where it goes. And then last, automatic review of new tax breaks. Every special carve-out or credit should expire unless it proves it actually helps people. No more permanent favors buried in the fine print. Thanks for watching today. My 3 key takeaways are: the same dollar in the possession of one party should not be taxed 3 or 4 times. Next, taxes were meant to build trust, not confusion. And then last, a fair system fuels creation, not just compliance. So what do you think of being triple taxed? What broken system aspects of taxes did I miss? How do we fix it? Comment below and tell us. If you like what you saw today, please like and subscribe, as we'll keep content like this coming your way. And it's my goal to make this content entertaining and funny, enlightening and educational, as well as a bit nostalgic. And as you know, we're going to talk about a lot of things, from consciousness to physics to philosophy to psychology, so stay tuned for that. Until then, keep thinking and being, and do not go gentle into that good night.